Hey everybody, welcome into the Thinking Crypto podcast, your home for cryptocurrency news and interviews. On your way in, please hit that subscribe button as well as the thumbs up button and leave a comment below. If you're listening on a podcast platform such as Spotify or Apple, please leave a 5-star rating and review. It supports the podcast and it doesn't cost you anything. Well, folks, we got breaking news and it's pretty historic. We got Democrats and Republicans in the House have voted to repeal the SEC's SAB 121 rule, which prevented banks from custodying Bitcoin and crypto. This is massive, a massive loss for Gary Gensler, and it's something he doesn't want to see. And that is Democrats and Republicans coming together and working together on crypto. Folks, this is epic and I'm here for it. This is amazing. And as I said in yesterday's podcast, I think that's why Gary Gensler all of a sudden decided to issue a Wells notice against Robinhood. It's his ploy. It's his strategy to try to distract you from these epic losses. But this is major and pretty historic. So let me give you the details. So first up is Alexander Grieve, who is a government affairs at Paradigm, said historic moment, first ever vote on a standalone crypto bill in either chamber of Congress. 21 Democrats joined with all the Republicans, with 10 of each party not voting, to approve the repeal of SAB 121. Also weighing in is G. Kim, who is the chief policy officer at the Crypto Council for Innovation, saying today the House of Representatives voted 228 to 182 to repeal the SEC's Staff Accounting Bulletin 121, also known as SAB 121, under the Congressional Review Act. We applaud Representative Mike Flood, Wally Nickel, and Senator Lummis. Guys, I've had all three of them on the podcast, of course, for their leadership on this important issue to help promote a more transparent process for making rules that significantly impact the U.S. financial system. SAB 121 marks a major policy shift in how banks and other entities custody assets, requiring responsible custodians who hold digital assets for their clients to keep those assets on their balance sheets and subjecting them to enormous associated capital requirements. As Commissioner Hester Peirce said, SAB 121 is yet another manifestation of the Securities and Exchange Commission's scattershot and inefficient approach to crypto. Alarmingly, the SEC issued SAB 121 without adhering to the notice and comment rulemaking process. The Administrative Procedure Act, APA, defines a rule as the whole or a part of an agency's statement of general or particular applicability and future effect designed to implement, interpret, or prescribe law or policy or describing the organization, procedure, or practice requirements of an agency. The SEC argued that SAB 121 does not meet the APA definition of a rule because it is not an agency statement of future effect. The Government Accountability Office, the GOA, disagreed and clarified that SAB 121 qualifies as a rule under the APA because of its substantive nature, contradicting the SEC's portrayal of its non-binding guidance. Another big fat L for scumbag regulator Gary Gensler. And here, Sheila Warren of the Crypto Council for Innovation also weighed in, saying, what a significant moment for the digital assets industry. 228 to 182 votes, with 21 Democrats voting in favor of repealing SAB 121, which improperly set rules for digital assets custodians. So this is just the tip of the iceberg of the unlawful activities we've been seeing with the SEC. So an epic loss and a big win for the crypto industry. So what happens next? Well, this has to go to the Senate and then to the president. That's where it gets complicated because we're gonna face a bit more hurdles in the Senate, but there are some folks rallying around this in the Senate already. So Taylor Barr of the Digital Chamber said the Senate version of the resolution to nullify SAB 121 has an updated list of 14 new co-sponsors. So of course the House voted on it and passed the resolution. He says this new list indicates strong support from Republicans, but at least 2 moderate Democrats will have to join on for a successful passage. I believe they can do it in the Senate because we're seeing more folks are rallying around the crypto industry and against Gary Gensler, even Democrats. So shout out to the Democrats who joined the Republicans here, and I hope they can get it through the Senate. Now, one of the reasons why I think it could make it through the Senate is that Elizabeth Warren is panicking. In fact, a letter came from the White House today saying that US President Joe Biden's administration says Biden would veto the legislation that would allow highly regulated firms to custody Bitcoin and crypto. This announcement comes amidst debates and discussions in Congress today regarding the regulation and oversight of Bitcoin and digital assets. Now, obviously, this has been passed, right, in the House, but who's behind this? Did Joe Biden wake up today and say, I'm going to block this? I don't like Bitcoin and crypto? Of course not. This is Elizabeth Warren's act, folks. But the fact that they're issuing this letter today, like it's such an important thing for them. They know this has legs in the Senate. They are worried. Now, it gets through the Senate and maybe Biden will veto it, but it doesn't matter. We're scoring victories here. We're starting the momentum. And even if Biden does veto it, it shows that the Congress is not in alignment with him and even the Senate. So this is great news, regardless of if Biden vetoes it or not, because look, the election's coming up. Things can change next year. And if it's in a place where it already made it out of the Senate, it's going to be easy to push it through the next president. That could be Joe Biden. Don't get me wrong. So, guys, victory, but we got to keep fighting, right? We got to keep winning here to win the war. We're winning battles, though, in the courts, in Congress, and much more. And Caitlin Long kind of shed some light on here to highlight that this is Elizabeth Warren's work. She said thoughts about Biden veto threat before Congress votes to repeal SAB 121. Big banks lobbied hard and lost. Liz still controls the White House financial services policy. Remember, she made a deal with Biden that she would endorse him in the election when he ran against Trump if she was to get this position. And you know, that we saw how that played out, right? She got the position and now she's attacking the crypto industry. So she has a lot of power. And that's why it's been so hard for the House Republicans to really hold Gary Gensler accountable, because Elizabeth Warren just has that power and she's backing up Gensler. Now, Anthony Scaramucci weighed in on Biden's veto threat, saying the latest in a string of misguided anti-crypto errors by the Biden-Warren administration that could cost them the election. The single-issue Bitcoin/crypto voting block is significant. He's absolutely right. Crypto is a ballot issue. Don't get me wrong, it's not the top issue, but it's up there. We saw at Super Tuesday what took place. A lot of pro-crypto candidates won, and the folks who were aligning themselves with Elizabeth Warren lost. And there's a lot of capital being raised now to support pro-crypto candidates. So we are ramping up our fight here. The industry is doing it, guys. And we're going to talk about some other issues that the SEC is facing now with the crypto industry attacking them. But first, quick word from our sponsor, and that is BitGo, which is one of the top crypto custodians in the industry. BitGo is working with many big brands and companies such as Bitstamp Exchange, Bitcoin IRA, Pantera Capital. In fact, Nike leverages their wallet services for their NFTs. So BitGo has hot wallets, custodial wallets, self-managed cold wallets, NFT wallets, and much more. They have top-tier insurance and security, and they're headed up by Mike Belshi, who's a Web 1.0 legend, now building in Web 3, guys. So if you'd like to learn more about BitGo, check out the link in the description. Now, some more headaches for scumbag regulator Gary Gensler. Eleanor Terrett of Fox Business is reporting that nonprofit crypto education group Cedar Innovation Foundation has just filed a FOIA, Freedom of Information Act request for all communications between the SEC chair Gary Gensler and enforcement director Gurbir Grewal regarding the sanctioning of the agency in the Debtbox case and the employment status of the two staff attorneys that were forced to resign. For those of you who don't know, the SEC got sanctioned in this case they brought against Debtbox because they lied to the judge in the court. A government agency breaking the law, lying to the courts, and much more. This is what happens when you have a scumbag regulator running the agency. Here's a quote. These lawyers appear to be a sacrifice covering a host of prior sins, and the public deserves to know the extent to which SEC leadership orchestrated this misconduct, says CIF spokesperson Josh Vlasto. CIF says it wants to find out how far the abuse of power at the SEC extends. Well, let me give you the answer to that. As the judge said when he sanctioned the SEC in this case, This is an organizational, cultural thing. It wasn't just the two lawyers. They weren't rogues and random dudes who did their own thing here. It came from the top. So I think we'll see that in the communications. And let's see, the SEC is going to try to delay this. You know their tactics, right, guys? If they have nothing to hide, they'd be like, here's the FOIA request. We don't care, right? We're not doing anything wrong, but they are doing things wrong. So that's why they've been delaying and delaying. And remember, Patrick McHenry threatened to subpoena Gary Gensler for not releasing the communications around the FTX situation. Why do you think Gary hasn't released that? We know, guys, he was trying to do backroom deals, covering up his nonsense that he was doing with Sam Bankman-Fried. And of course, Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX collapsed under his watch. So you can't make this stuff up. This is why we have to keep fighting, amplify the truth and the facts, and expose this scumbag that we're dealing with. Here, Marky Waida, who's one of the commissioners at the SEC, him and Hester Peirce are the reasonable, logical ones there in how to handle crypto, but they're outnumbered, right? So Eleanor Terry of Fox Business asked Marky Waida about Gary Gensler's interview on CNBC yesterday. Squawk Box. He was interviewed by Andrew Ross Sorkin, and he said, while the easiest regulatory response to crypto and digital asset innovation is to use bad actors as an excuse to shut it all down, regulators should be creating a pathway to compliance for legitimate efforts. The SEC has yet to develop that pathway. So even you got commissioners of the SEC who are not in alignment with Gary Gensler. It's a mess. What a shit show, right, folks? And we know they're going after Ethereum now, but then Bill Hinman and Jay Clayton said Ethereum is not a security. This thing is a mess. And this is why the elections, I think, are going to be really impactful. But, as I've been saying, guys, we are in the then they fight you phase. First, they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win. Disruptive technology always win. Elizabeth Warren and Gary Gensler are going to throw up roadblocks and try to throw anything at the wall and see if it sticks and try to shake down the industry. But the disruptive technology always wins. And this is not a US asset class. This is a global asset class. And unlike past asset classes and technologies, this time around, it's more spread out across the world because it's running on the internet. So yes, the United States is the largest capital market, but you don't need to be in the United States to build something and to get it off the ground. And that's very different from in the past where the dot-com boom mainly took place in the United States. So it's interesting and it's fascinating. There's so many layers to this, but Gary Gensler and Elizabeth Warren are on the losing side of history. Now, guys, while all this is happening, big money, Wall Street continue to build, right? I've often stated there's two things happening in parallel here. The crypto startups and these folks are getting sued and getting Wells notices, while Mastercard, Visa, BlackRock, Fidelity are issuing ETFs using USDC, tokenizing, and much more. And here's proof. Mastercard joins forces with US banking titans for tokenized settlement trials. You don't say. They're taking the blockchain, they're tokenizing, putting traditional assets on it. So payment processing and settlement firm Mastercard has joined hands with major banking institutions in the United States, such as Citigroup, Visa, and JP Morgan, to test distributed ledger technology for banking settlements utilizing tokenization. The partnership between the banking giants and payment processor aims to test shared ledger technology called Regulated Settlement Network, RSN. RSN enables tokenized assets like treasuries, investment-grade debt instruments, and money from commercial banks to be settled collectively. Currently, securities such as investment-grade debt and assets such as money from commercial banks function on different systems. Using RSN, settlement procedures will occur on a single platform by converting various assets into tokens and settling them on a distributed ledger. The current trial phase expands on a 12-week pilot phase that started in late 2022. The test was earlier focused on cross-border and domestic dollar payments between banks. The ongoing proof of concept, RSN trials, are focused on simulating settlements in the United States dollar. So, folks, they're doing all types of testing, trial and error, and all that jazz. I'm very fascinated as to what the blockchains they're using. And I can't wait for that news to break. We know many of these folks are tokenizing on many public blockchains. Some are private, don't get me wrong, but I would be very fascinated as to which blockchain they're using here. But this just shows this technology is here to stay. It's the next layer on top of the internet, will change the way we transact and do business. I've often stated there's going to be no more stock market opening and closing bell. Stocks, bonds, real estate will all be in the blockchain, 24/7 trading, global markets, and real time, guys. That's what's coming. So that's why you have the biggest names in the banking industry, in the payments industry, all adopting cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology. So very bullish news. Now we got some news here that Ethereum's Dencun upgrade is making ETH inflationary again. This is from Crypto Quant. So the TLDR is the new supply of Ether is growing at its fastest daily rate since the merge, as the amount of fees burned has plummeted following the Dencun upgrade, analysts said. Now here's what the analyst from Crypto Quant said. Here's a quote: "Before the Dencun upgrade, the higher network activity on Ethereum meant higher fees burned and hence less Ether supply. However, after the Dencun upgrade, the total amount of fees burned has decoupled from the network activity." So this is not good, but it's not detrimental to ETH. But there was a period where it was deflationary. Now it's become inflationary. But at the same time, Ethereum, it's proof of stake, so a lot of people do lock up a lot of coins, but the burning of the tokens is not happening at the rate it was before. Now we'll see what the Ethereum developers and Vitalik and these guys have to say, but this is something to watch because tokenomics does impact price. If there's a lot more tokens coming into the market, it can impact the amount of liquidity that's needed to drive the price up to higher highs. So this is why you need to look at tokenomics for different projects and cryptocurrencies that you hold. And I'll be following this closely, but I don't think this is detrimental. If it gets ridiculous and there's a ton of tokens being introduced into the market, that's a bad thing. So we'll have to keep an eye on this and see what the Ethereum developers say, but this is something to watch. Now, guys, we got some good news, and that is FTX says most of its customers of the bankrupt crypto exchange will get all their money back. So the bankruptcy procedures are continuing. FTX estimates that it owes creditors around $11.2 billion. FTX said that it had between $14.5 and $16.3 billion to distribute to creditors. Customers whose claims to $50,000 or less will receive approximately 118% of the amount of their owned claim. The plan says around 98% of creditors will receive this compensation. This is good news. Anybody who lost money here, getting some of it back, if not all of it back, is a great thing. We resolve this thing and put it behind us. Sam Bankman-Fried is in jail, of course, and we can move forward. And this is why I covered in my book, Rethinking Crypto, The Crash of FTX and the Rise of Safer, Stronger Digital Assets. Sam Bankman-Fried was a bad actor. You have to delineate between the bad actor and the technology. And in the book, it talks about the ETF race, the regulatory battles with the SEC, Ripple and Grayscale and so forth, and what the future looks like, tokenization. So grab a copy, guys, to support the podcast. And this is a great book to give as a gift for people who want to learn about crypto, who are still on the fence. It gives the holistic view. It also includes tips for investing in crypto. So you can grab it in paperback as well as digital copy, Kindle, and so forth on Amazon, link in the description. Also, heads up, I'll be at the DC Blockchain Summit next week, May 15th and 16th. The summit's on the 15th, Blockchain Education Day on the 16th, which I'm really excited about because we can go to visit Capitol Hill and talk to a lot of the legislators and so forth. So with this big news of SAB 121 getting repealed in the by the House, I'm excited to be there next week. So if you want to grab some tickets, you can get a discount using my code ThinkingCrypto. Links will be in the description. Thank you guys for watching and listening, and I'll talk to you all later.